A nervous stomach, sadness in your chest? A recent study confirms that different feelings are linked to sensations in specific parts of our bodies. And get this, it also shows that this body map of emotions is universal and has stayed pretty much the same for at least 3,000 years. Most of us connect feelings like anger, fear, sadness, or happiness with similar parts of our bodies. Modern experiments back this up. But how did people experience emotions thousands of years ago? A recent analysis of texts from the Neo-Assyrian Empire, which existed between the 10th and 7th centuries BC in Mesopotamia, offers some fascinating answers. The research team used advanced methods from the field of natural language processing to analyze thousands of sources in Akkadian, the language used in ancient Mesopotamia. Texts from the Neo-Assyrian Empire's peak contain many references to emotions and their physical experiences. This allowed researchers to map the feelings and how they showed up in different body parts. They identified words related to emotions like joy, anger, or fear, and words for body parts like heart, belly, or liver. Then they analyzed how these words appeared together in the texts. Using statistical tools, they uncovered patterns and created body maps of emotions, showing where people who lived almost 3,000 years ago felt them in their bodies. The analysis revealed consistent patterns for 18 different emotions. We noticed certain body parts that people connected with similar feelings, even in modern times, explains Juha Lanakoski, the lead author of the study from the research center in Jülich, Germany. For example, the Neo-Assyrians mentioned the heart in connection with joy, love, or pride, just like we say our heart races when we feel happy or proud. In the 15th century, people didn't experience emotions. Those were the days. This bold statement has a simple explanation. The word emotion, from the French word émouvoir, meaning to stir up, simply didn't exist then. But feelings and strong emotions have stirred humans since ancient times. Emotions act like feedback for us and those around us. The word emotion first showed up in dictionaries in 1579 and only got a clearer meaning at the start of the 19th century. That's when philosophy professors like Thomas Brown and Thomas Dixon tried to describe the mental world of humans. So what did people experience before? What we call emotions today were feelings, affections, and passions, and not just positive ones. Passions could be dark or bad, called accidents of the soul or moral feelings. It basically depended on the mood and situation. The important thing is that emotional experiences have always been with us, just with different names. Over time, philosophers, poets, doctors, then psychologists, psychiatrists, neurophysiologists, sociologists, and now even life coaches and marketers studied them. This led to many definitions, arguments, and debates about what emotions are and how to group them. People probably only agree that emotions are a built-in mechanism, a reaction to something external with many functions. They're not just a mail carrier, but the whole postal service and the letter itself. They're a response and a way to prepare for more reactions. They happen inside us, but they come with changes in our bodies, even visible ones. Confused? Let's look at one basic strong emotion: anger. You might call it rage or irritation. It's a reaction that starts when you face an obstacle you can't overcome. The barrier can be physical, like a big bouncer not letting you into a club, a closed counter at an office, or even your favorite soccer team losing. It's something that blocks your path and creates a big problem for your plans. Anger first triggers an internal feeling. You probably know that unpleasant feeling of anger, even if it's justified. Then a physical reaction happens, like tense muscles and adrenaline getting you ready to fight the obstacle. You might also see a bulging vein on a red forehead. We talk about anger because it shows how emotions help us survive. They get us ready to act, and cleverly their outward signs can calm down further aggression. You can usually see how angry someone is, which tells others not to make things worse. Whether an explosion actually happens depends mainly on a person's ability to work with and control their emotions, and also on whether they can transform that built-up energy into something positive, but that stems from individual traits, temperament, creativity, and overall mood. It's different for everyone, and there are also differences across cultures. In some cultures, people don't show their emotions outwardly, suppressing them is part of their national identity. Of course, that doesn't mean they don't experience emotions. It's also important to distinguish between a short-term burst of emotion and a longer-lasting mood. Emotions create shortcuts in our memory, comparing and categorizing information so we can process it easier. They help us divide experiences into good and bad. It's like compressed information without details, helping us navigate our memories. Other big emotions include sadness, trust, surprise, disgust, anticipation. They're usually easy to recognize in ourselves. We know what's happening and why. If we're not blind and deaf and have some emotional intelligence, we can identify them in others too, from facial expressions, voice tremors, breathing rate, or the overall situation. Even if not everyone shows them the same way, these basic big emotions are pretty universal. They're a helpful guide for getting along with others. You don't laugh loudly at a funeral because even if you don't remember that distant uncle, you know others feel sad. We know how sadness and loss hurt, so we automatically follow certain behaviors, but we can also share in the joy at someone else's wedding. Emotions, like a universal internal language, even before humans spoke, encouraged helpful behavior within a group and helped build unity in early human communities. They were, and still are, useful because they're easily shared within a group and create a feeling of belonging. Even though we tend to divide them into positive and negative, based on whether they react to pleasant or unpleasant things, in their neutral form, all emotions are helpful. They're often a strong motivation to do or not do something. If we don't want to feel sad about a loss, we try to prevent that loss. When we feel disgust, it pushes us to remove the source of that unpleasantness. Even though everyone is born with the capacity for emotions, not everyone experiences them with the same intensity. Extroverts are said to experience and express their emotions fully. Introverts are thought to be more reserved. People also develop tendencies towards certain emotional states, whether positive or negative. You can probably think of someone who's overly quick-tempered or fearful. This is closely related to how well you manage emotions or if they control you. The emerging problem goes both ways. Those who don't control their emotions, like a walking volcano of positive or negative feelings, can struggle. It's also risky for those around them because being near any volcano is always a bit dangerous. It's also not good when someone's emotional experience is shut down. Life without emotions is very flat. Such people can easily miss out on normal emotional life, but also social context and the connections of human existence. People diagnosed with anhedonia can't experience pleasure at all. And serial killers, psychopaths, often lack or have gaps in their emotional experiences. A big mistake, and sadly, a growing trend, is self-proclaimed experts telling us exactly how to work with, experience, and not suppress our emotions. The problem is that everyone's emotional state is quite individual. An introvert doesn't need to dance excitedly to express joy at winning. Their happiness can be just as strong as someone who shows it openly. We can't measure the quality or strength of someone's emotions, and we can't prescribe how to present them to oneself or society, but we should learn emotional literacy. What is that? Hold on tight. It's the level of personal abilities, skills, and knowledge to recognize and identify experienced emotions, to control, regulate, and adapt them in normal and unusual life situations. Woo! Practically, it means that people who aren't emotionally literate might experience deep sadness that turns into a long-term mood, and then clinical depression. Just because they don't know how to handle, process, and cope with that emotion. People can get lost in their emotions. They suppress them until it becomes a problem, or they let them run wild until it's destructive. Emotional literacy lets you read yourself and then, figuratively, those around you, leading to better understanding for everyone. When we can understand our own emotions, we get closer to being able to adjust them, sometimes toning them down, sometimes turning them up. It's then easier to understand our partner's feelings or build mental strength, so we don't punch our boss even if we're angry. Emotions strongly shape our relationships: love, jealousy, hate, and friendship. How we handle them internally will affect us our whole lives. Things were so much easier in the 15th century when they didn't have any emotions. Hangry is real. Scientists confirmed this in an experiment. Researchers confirmed what many people know. Feeling hungry really does trigger negative emotions, especially anger and irritability. The hungrier people are, the angrier they get, a British study showed. The results, published in the scientific journal PLOS One, showed that hunger is indeed linked to more anger and irritability, and fewer pleasant feelings. These connections are strong and consistent, regardless of age, gender, body mass index, BMI, eating habits, and personality traits. Many of us know that hunger affects our mood, but there are surprisingly few studies on this topic, says Swami. Our research is the first, as far as we know, to look at this phenomenon outside a lab. By observing people in their daily lives, we found that hunger is truly closely tied to emotions. This hunger isn't just in humans, it's also seen in fruit flies, which have been studied in the past. The biological reason for hunger isn't clear yet. Some think it's related to low blood sugar, but experts haven't reached a definite conclusion.